And we're going to stay in the SEC here for what I think was by far the game of the year. This game looked incredible. Watch it from start to finish. Vanderbilt, Auburn. Who would have thought at the beginning of the year that we'd be talking about an 80-point shootout between these two teams? Especially given the fact that Auburn didn't look great, but like even if you said today or on Saturday before the game that this game's going to have 83 points, I think, you'd be like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, these are some like low-scoring teams. We saw Vanderbilt put 17 on Mizzou. They're going to score 45 now? And especially given the fact that, Auburn put 3 on Kentucky. They looked like a flaming dumpster fire for the first 75% of the season. Now they dropped 38 on the number 16 ranked team in the country. Wow. DJ Durkin, he has head coach experience at Maryland, knows how to motivate a team. I saw his speech at the end of the game after the loss. That is a coach that I would want to play for. He's motivating. People want to get behind him. If he could take the full head coaching job, I wouldn't be opposed to that. I think it'll be really interesting to see how they play against Alabama because their next game's against Mercer, so who cares? But if they show up against Alabama, which at home they typically do, that could provide a really interesting scenario where you'd be like, yeah, I might want to keep this guy around. And I'd be totally fine with that. I think if they, especially now that it looks like Ashton Daniels is playing super well, they could spend money on the roster elsewhere, and you could field a really competitive team next year. They came out fighting. They went up early. We're up 10 at halftime. And as much as I'm going to give props to Auburn, I'm a little bit worried about Vanderbilt because it's the second week in a row we've seen them roll over and die in the first half. We saw them go behind 17 against Texas, and now we see them trailing at half by 10 points to a 4-5 Auburn. Super concerning. That can't happen at all. And you're not going to, if you want to go farther in the playoffs or have a chance at making the playoffs, you can't do that. That doesn't impress the committee. Yes, you battled back, which is good, but you can't do that. It's good adjustments that they made both in the Texas game and this game as well. But I would be very worried if I were a Vanderbilt fan if when you played Tennessee, you came out and you didn't start strong. You're not going to win games like that. That Auburn offense in the first half, and of course towards the second half and parts of the second half as well, looked phenomenal. The holes that the offensive line created were massive. There was little to no pass rush. Ashton Daniels always had an outlet. Jeremiah Cobb it felt like every play, 9 yards, 8 yards, 15 yards. Boom. They couldn't stop him. And Ashton Daniels, I didn't fully appreciate because after seeing that game was 10-3, I kind of wrote him off. I'm like, this is not what you want to see out of this offense. And they looked phenomenal. I think he could be the answer to their problems, potentially. If you want to keep him, and like I said, spend money elsewhere, especially keeping your 2 5-star receivers, you should. As opposed to dropping $2 million on a quarterback who's going to underperform. So I think that could be a valid option for Auburn. And he had 2 touchdowns through the air, 90 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. One of them should have been called back for one of the most egregious non-calls I think I've ever seen on that holding penalty to make it 28 or something like that. Cam Coleman and Eric Singleton had phenomenal days, and it's all because of Ashton Daniels. Both of them had over 100 yards and a touchdown. Cam Coleman on that touchdown and 2-point conversion with the catch maybe of the year. Well, I guess that's tough to say because the real catch of the year came this week with Indiana. But a one-handed grab behind the defender who had his back turned, and then for the 2-point conversion, they run a fade route to him, and it's not even a question of who catches that ball. He looked really, 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 really good. And even though they lost, that offense can hang their heads high saying we did our jobs. Put up 38 points and lose. Shame on the defense, man. I think if you keep those 2 players and find them the quarterback, whether it's Daniels or it's someone else, you have the ability to have a really, really good team. You really do. Because anyone can compete in the SEC. You see these games being close. You see teams fighting for wins. It's super scrappy, like teams going 9-3 and still hanging their heads high. That can be Auburn next year. And I really think they can do it. And if they just keep their players and spend where they should, get another NIL influx, they could be really, really good. So last week, I said that Vanderbilt cannot play from behind. I'd like to kind of take that statement back. We saw the Texas game where they dug themselves in a hole that they couldn't quite come out of. But this week we saw them make adjustments very quickly. In the end of the second quarter and into the third quarter, they scored 3 touchdowns on 3 consecutive drives of very few plays. We saw them have scored touchdowns of drives of 3, 6, and 4 plays. Explosive, creative. And that's what I think Vanderbilt really needs to work on, and they've proven that it can work, because when they play with a little urgency, offense gets so much better. They're very predictable in close games, and I think we saw that on the 4th and 1 towards the end of this game. 4th and 1, Auburn sacks the box. Throw the damn ball. Throw the damn ball. Unbelievable how predictable that was. 4th and 1, read option. Pavia gets tripped up for a loss of 4 yards. Auburn has a chance to kick a game-winning field goal. It's just brutal. It's so predictable. And when they don't do that, they're so much more creative. They score. They gain chunk plays. Eli Stowers was phenomenal. How did he not get that ball on 4th and 1? I said it last week that he was the best tight end in the draft. This week exemplified it. Over 100 yards, 12 catches on 15 targets. It seemed like every time Pavia needed a clutch play, Eli Stowers was getting the ball. He is a menace. 120 yards, and he could have had plenty more as well. And he's really, really helping Pavia out. Pavia had over 370 yards in the air, 110 on the ground, 4 total touchdowns. When Stowers and Pavia play well, this offense is elite. And Pavia needs to learn to play well in the first half and needs to learn how to mix it up a little bit. I don't know if that's something you work out with the offensive coordinator or not, but he has the ability to really help his offense with their creativity. Stowers is obviously his number one option. Mikey Sherrill as well is up there as well. That offense, when they play with urgency, it's as good as it gets. So if they show up earlier, play more creative from the start, no one's going to stop them. Tennessee sure as hell can't. And if they play like in the last 35 minutes of the Auburn game, if they play like that against Tennessee, they might win by 10, 15 points. Nobody can stop them. Who could? They looked really, really strong, and they kept their season alive for sure. But if they keep their season alive and make it to the playoffs, you can't fuck around like that. So you're just gonna have to show up. Also, fun thing, they covered. I didn't think it would happen like this, but they won by 7, which is more than 6.5. So shout out Vanderbilt for covering, making me look better and my wallet looking better. That's always fun. Didn't think it would go into overtime. Didn't think it would be this close, but they got the job done. Shocking how it happened, but I'll take it.